This video just happens to be sponsored by HelloFresh. Among the constant barrage of news, which may include the revival of our childhood band, the fact that Riot wants to do 3 seasons per year instead of 1, or the fact that Wild Rift might get a canon minigame for Arcane, well, now we also got another whole new surprise. We learned that together with Teemo's ASU, we are also getting his lore updated. And since this update also includes his audio, of course he's getting new voice lines, so we have to cover those too. And the best thing of all of it is live right now. Or at least the story is up on Universe. The visual update is still on PBE. So, even though these days it only happens a couple of times a year, let's dive into some new lore that arrived in the universe of League of Legends. But before we do that, we quickly have to mention some other important details that were also brought up. First of all, with these story changes, Teemo also suffered from a big loss. And I'm not talking about his memory loss, even though, funnily enough, that is part of his story now. No, I'm talking about the fact that Captain Teemo is no longer a captain. Yes, I know that this is actually a horrifying piece of news, but on Reddit, the team behind Teemo's ASU did an AMA, and there they answered quite a bit of questions, some of which might even be spicy. Now thankfully, as always, you don't have to dig through all of those yourselves. All you have to do is follow SpiderX on Twitter and they always collect it all up. And here we learned that the team tried to make the Yordles feel less like a military. Which, you know, if you know anything about the Yordle lore, yeah, that makes sense. They are not supposed to be a deadly force, quite the opposite. And Captain was always a title used for a military unit. And since the Bandle Scouts were not really intended to be that, the title Captain was scrapped. So rest in peace, our favorite voice line.
Captain Teemo on duty!
Also, the team pointed out one more thing. While Teemo's original lore gave him a bit of a darker side, by which I mean that it was hinting at the fact that Teemo might be a master killer utilizing his scouting abilities, that was a pretty old version of his lore. And it didn't really fit with his design, nor the characteristics of Yordles. However, the team knew that some people still liked this dark twist that Teemo had. Which is why the story of the Omega Squad Teemo remained the same. There, he still stays as a deadly assassin. But that's enough for the setup, so now let's dive into what changed in Teemo's lore. And I think we can all assume it's definitely gonna resolve around his delicious mushrooms. Those delicious. This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. Hunger, the driver of all things, can be swept under the rug with the help of HelloFresh. With HelloFresh delivering fresh ingredients for your meals right to your doorstep, you too can cross this primal urge from your checklist. To land right on your needs, each week you can customize your delivery and mix and match whatever fits your lifestyle. Or just your mood at the time. And it is in your power to choose where and when it will be delivered. Which also includes the option to skip a week if you are traveling. Of course, all of these meals can start at the very beginning with breakfast. After all, it is said that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and I know as a fact that you are skipping it. Besides that, of course, you can dive into the massive menu of over 50 different options. And while your subscription is active, you get one breakfast item for free. And best of all, these meals include pre-portioned ingredients, which makes the entire cooking process incredibly simple. Not to mention that, of course, it is also a lot faster. From personal experience, I can tell you that people might know that I'm not the best chef. But with HelloFresh, that is an issue of the past, and I too can make a meal that is not entirely burned and is actually edible. And you too can become such a great cook by joining HelloFresh. So click the link in the description or use my code to get 10 free meals and free breakfast for life. That is one breakfast item per box while the subscription is active if you are in the US. Outside of the US, the local discount will apply. So once again, many thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. And now, back to the pixels of a fantasy universe. On my honor as a scout, I will strive to help every living thing thrive, to be a friend to all in need, to seek out every rock and tree, to be honest and kind and brave and true. I try my best in all I do, to meet every challenge with courage and wit, and to leave the world better than I found it. So I pledge to uphold the Bandle Scout way, and serve the Yordle kind each and every day. The Bandle Scout Oath. And here we can already pause to mention something interesting. So as you can see, the Bandle Scouts are still intact. They were unchanged. And they are still following the Scouts Code. But we actually got a bit more clarification on what the Scouts Code is. So, the Scouts Code is a set of guidelines that define the philosophy of the Bandle Scouts. But what's funny here is that this is a set of made-up rules. And it is constantly growing as Teemo is adding in new rules. So now it is nearly impossible to just make a complete list of all the rules. Just keep that in mind as we keep going. Teemo has been a Bandle Scout for as long as he can remember, hopping through portals all across Runeterra in order to find people in need. Badge 131, help a stranger. To befriend new creatures. Badge 389, adopt a pet. Or even to document strange new species of mushrooms. Badge 248, fungology expert. For Teemo, there was no greater joy than spending his days seeking adventure and earning Bandle Scout badges, which was how he became the most decorated Bandle Scout the world had ever seen. Which is where we get a mention of the first proper Bandle Scout rule. Bandle Scout Rule 154, never fear the unknown. When other Yordles saw what Teemo had accomplished, his dedication and enthusiasm inspired them to become Bandle Scouts. What began as a single scout with a dream grew and grew, until Teemo was handing out badges to inner pit young cadets, and writing new copies of the Bandle Scout rules for their journeys across Runeterra. Rules which he had luckily memorized, since his original handbook was lost somewhere in the waters south of the Serpent Isles while he was learning to tie sailing knots. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a setup. The fact that Teemo's original handbook was lost somewhere around Bilgewater might come up later. Maybe Riot will use it to set up a future Yordle champion. Or maybe it's gonna be used as a setup for a new champion from Bilgewater who just happens to follow the Scouts Code. Or it is possible that the handbook was just destroyed and it is used as a setup for the fact that Teemo now has to make up new rules. So, this is most likely mentioned here to add up a bit of spice to Teemo's lore, while also keeping the windows open for any potential future setups. Anyway, Bandle Scout Rule 13. Every day is an adventure, make sure you are prepared. When one cadet surveyed Yordles across Runeterra regarding Bandle Scout contributions, badge 567, market research, the feedback was unanimous. Under Teemo's fearless leadership, the Bandle Scouts were beloved the world over. Which is where we get some quotes from some known Yordles who encountered the Scouts in the past. Teemo is so cool. One time I saw him stop raging stampede of wild horses. It was awesome. Ava, Bandle Scout. The Bandle Scouts have grown a lot. They put on this great big festival a while ago. Had floats and everything. It was pretty neat. They even let me set off some fireworks. Tristana, the Bandle Gunner. This might actually be a reference to the Bandle Tale game. For those of you who don't know, this is just a game about throwing parties and festivals for all the Yordles, which includes potential fireworks, and that also includes Tristana. I love those rascals with their missions and badges and adventurer's moxie. It brings a happy tear to this old pilot's eye. Corky, the daring bombardier. What the f is a Bandle Scout? Glad, High Major Commodore of the 1st Legion 3rd Multiplication Double Admiral Artillery Vanguard Company. So yes, Glad is still roaming around Noxus having no idea what's happening in Bandle City. Which is where Teemo's story concludes. Teemo even introduced the world to Bandle Scout biscuits, now carried by scouts all across Runeterra. Their inventory includes over 100 exciting and unique flavors, such as burrow snacks, old cheese, honey fruit, meat, limited edition Spirit Blossom. Get it? Because Spirit Blossom is that one event in Ionia that canonically happens only once a year. Bilgewater Rat, Halian Puff Pastry, permanently retired. Get it? Because Halia is that one city on the Blessed Isles that blew up and turned into the Shadow Isles. Shuriman Sand, and many, many more. Nowadays, Teemo is focusing on completing Bandle Scout missions of his own design. His most recent achievements are propagating the near-extinct species of exploding mushrooms. Of course, we know those as puffcaps. And freeing all the cute basilisks in the Noxian war camp, who looked so very sad inside their stables. He's also researching the origins of the Bandle Scouts. Who founded it? Made the first badge? Penned the first rule? And could it have been Teemo himself in a time long lost to his memories? He can't remember. But no matter the mission, one thing remains constant, which is Teemo's dedication to live by the words of the Scout's Oath, to uphold the Bandle Scout way and serve Yordlekind each and every day. So here, we got one last twist. Teemo is old. We don't really get any specifics or even comparisons to other Yordles, but this might become a surprise to a lot of people. I mean, all Yordles are old by the definition of them technically being just motes of magic. But in Teemo's case, he is so old he doesn't remember how his adventures started. In many ways, he is somehow similar to Vladimir. Also, his mushrooms were mentioned here at the end, with his goal being to preserve this near-extinct kind of mushrooms. Which is why, in-game, you are technically just running around and planting them in their new environment. And it just so happens to be that the enemies are stepping on them and explode. Also, the fact that he is likely buying them from Piltover still seems to be true. That part wasn't retconned, so it seems like he is buying them from the drug dealers, totally oblivious to what Piltovans are doing with these mushrooms, just to save them. In fact, even in the AMA, it was confirmed that the main direction of Teemo's new lore is that he is oblivious to all the chaos that he is causing. And that actually reflects in his voice lines in a really clever way. It almost feels like he is senile. And it's hilarious. For example, here's the first line.
A puppy! Aw, who wants a treat? I've got Bandle Scout biscuits.
This is an obvious reference to the massive list of biscuits we got in his bio.
Whoa, is that the puppy? I've never seen a hero up close before.
He also has a lot of playful interactions with the other Yordles. Nothing special to really mention here.
How's the mech, Rumble? Did you fix the random exploding yet?
Which is followed by this.
You look like my pet Fluffy! He was a soul-devouring sea worm.
So here we learned that Teemo canonically had a soul-devouring sea worm as a pet. The word had being very important because it also continues.
Yeah, I had to let Fluffy go too.
Yes, that's right. Teemo likely had to put Fluffy down. Or he just released him back where he found him. Though it would be hilarious if that worm is what we could see in his splash art. If that is the soul-devouring sea worm, even though it is kinda tiny, then yes, he put him down. After which we also get a confirmation for his senile side.
Whoopsie daisy. Oops, did I do that? Was that too much?
Yes, every time Teemo kills someone with his mushroom, he kinda shrugs it off as an accident. And things get even funnier when they die when they are far away.
Did anyone else hear that? Nope. Okay.
And yes, the Scouts biscuits are definitely becoming a returning joke.
Have you considered carrying Bandle Scout biscuits? We have over 100 flavors.
It is kinda like Jacks and eggs.
Never underestimate the power of the Scout Code.
Yes, you heard it right. This game is officially unplayable. They changed the Scout's code into the Scout Code. It sounds so weird. And then he also has a couple of these lines referencing roads leading to Bandle City.
All roads lead to Bandle City.
Of course, this is talking about the portals, which can be found absolutely everywhere. And in fact, Teemo was one of the first Yordles who was shown hiding these portals. So he would know that every road does in fact lead to Bandle City.
Scout rule number 151. Every Yordle loves a portal.
But that should be really it for Teemo's update. Honestly, I want to mark it as a success simply because before this, Teemo didn't have much lore outside of Legends of Runeterra. And there, he was really just buying mushrooms off of drug dealers. But now, not only did they give him something, but he also got a new, fun side to his personality. That personality might be dementia, but hey, at least Teemo is now fully canon.
I pledge to uphold the Bandle Scout way and serve Yordle kind each and every day.